The world is on fire. The podcast with David Cortez.
Yes.
So welcome to the World on Fire podcast. Welcome. This is the first episode. I thought about making a joke, but of the title, making it even funnier. But my jokes never really land. They always kind of go sideways. So I choose to make a joke as the title. But let's get into the nitty and gritty of it. There's so much to talk about, but the one thing that we should talk about for sure. I mean, I think every podcast tries to go in this direction at first, but we're not going to commit to this one direction, which is, talking about just dating. We're not making a bros podcast, but at the same time, we're going to touch on the subject as well, regardless. Right?
Right. Correct.
Exactly. So there's something that's making it to where all the relationships are getting ruined nowadays. Like they're all going to hell. In my opinion, that's what I'm seeing. Not for me, but for everybody else. And I want to, comment on a couple of different things that might be important for people to know, to understand what's going on. Like what's creating the social climates of dating? What's affecting things so bad that everything's just ending in bad situations? And I'm not saying every single relationship is failing. I'm not saying every single one. But according to stats, it's over 50% of relationships, of marriages that are ending. And according to a lot of people that I speak with, the dating market is terrible. It's a freaking nightmare. It has everybody saying something like that. Huh?
We say yes, I see that often.
Yeah, it's a thing. What do you think it is, Gina? What do you think it is?
I think it's technology. Honestly, technology gives a lot of ease and access, and it gives people this unconscious, there's variety out there, and you can take part in that. And that's the part where I feel like technology really hinders what it is to date.
Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But with attachment styles, that's actually pretty fun. I don't hear a lot of podcasts talking about this. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because they're not very knowledgeable. People are not very knowledgeable of the subject. Maybe it's because it's complex. Maybe it's because it has just not been talked about. Maybe it's just as simple as that. Some people kind of touch on this a little bit, but they don't really touch on it too much. So I want to talk about it for a couple of minutes. So attachment styles are basically what informs how you're going to pick your partner, or how you're going to maybe, interact with your partner. It is the way that you interact with people that you care about, people that you love, friends, other people in your life that are important. And this attachment style situation thing here, it has a lot to do with the way that you were brought up. It does. Huh?
Yeah.
So if you were brought up with mom and dad, and they were very loving and caring and compassionate, patient, and they were like the parents of the show House, Full House, for example. I mean, you're off to a good start, right? If you were that loved in your family, and if you have loving parents and then people who care about you, then you're more likely to be well-adjusted in life. If you go towards people who are understanding, have appropriate expectations, give you love in a healthy way, are patient, they're not abusive, they're present, they're not absent, they're loving, they're not cold, they're there for you when you need them, and they're dependable. And you develop what's called a secure attachment style.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yes.
You grow up very secure. You grow up very confident. Yes.
Yeah. And if you grew up in this environment, then you're set for life in a way. However, some theorists would argue that you're not necessarily set for life because of another aspect of developments that happens. So during, the childhood years, if you got this experience of a secure attachment style with your parents, you're good. However, when you get to your teen years, that's when all hell can break loose, unfortunately. If you have a secure attachment style with your parents and they're awesome and they're great, cool, perfect. If you experience the exact same thing in your dating life, in your teenage years, you're set significantly. However, if you date somebody who is terrible in your teenage years, exactly. Let me pull up it's not going to be fun. If you encounter one of these people, and for argument's sake, let's say this person did not experience a secure attachment style. Let's say they grew up with the opposite. Let's say they grew up with those kinds of parents, right? Damn, right? You just gotta look at, but kids are so young and what's it called? They're not aware of all these different things. So they're not gonna know they're stepping on a landmine. And if they date somebody who's not very healthy and very toxic and very messed up, then it spreads. This damn thing spreads like an infection in a way.
Yeah.
It spreads. And it makes it to where people in attachment styles, they get jacked up. So we have now somebody who had a secure attachment style who now has maybe issues with anxiety, maybe who has issues with trauma, and who now operates differently from what they did operate before. So essentially, they got broken by this person, and if they don't get fixed, right? Again, so let's say that you experience one of these people, and then one of these people is the one that informs your expectations for dating and informs how you navigate things. Then now you're going to be operating with a new framework of dating. Now your mentality, your beliefs, your concepts, everything that you know about dating, your schema, how they call it, your schema representation, has now been morphed. A schema is a mental representation of things. For example, if I ask you what a chair looks like, what is the first thing that goes through your mind?
What?
A chair. A chair.
A chair?
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you, dude, because you're going to see something you do. It's like a lot of things that fire that.
No, so if you think of a chair, some people think of four-legged chair.
Look,
Yeah, I guess. But if you think of a chair, it's something like, let's say 4 legs. Maybe people think about the chair they grew up with at their house when they were kids, the chair that everybody grew up with, a wooden chair with 4 legs. That's kind of like grandma's chair. Maybe people think about that. If you ask some people what a chair looks like, they might think about their office chair because office chairs are like everywhere.
What if you think about like a grandiose chair?
Okay, cool. And you think of a grandiose chair. That's awesome, right?
That's it?
That's it. but a chair is whatever, the schema is whatever you come up with, whatever you think about. However, with dating, a schema forms as well. And the script forms as well. And all these different things form. And it informs people of how to navigate dating. So if you experience toxic relationships in your adolescent years, then you think, okay, they all work like this. This was not an isolated experience. They all work like this. This is how it's supposed to be. Not only that, though, but sometimes people love and want to be loved the way they have known to be loved. The way they experience love throughout those years informs how they want to experience love later on. Even if they know that it's unhealthy, they can't help but go towards that. And sometimes they're not completely aware that it's unhealthy. That's the thing. They have not developed that awareness. This is not what's supposed to be happening. And that requires a lot of different things. It could require therapy. It could require meeting healthy people and being exposed to what healthy love looks like. But unfortunately for the people who have a secure attachment style, if they encounter something like this, then it does predispose them to struggle more down the line after this relationship. In the event that it does not work out, and most likely it will not work out. This for the audience. It will not work out.
Mm.
But also, if you, this is the worst one, in my opinion. This is kind of like the worst case scenario, the double whammy. If you experience parents that are abusive or toxic or avoidant or dismissive or anxious, and then you have that, and then you go into the dating market, and then you experience the exact same goddamn thing. The exact same thing. Then you would for sure double down on this is what it looks like. For sure. This is what it's supposed to look like.
Huh?
Huh?
Hell no.
No.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, then people are, they double down on this mentality. This is how it looks like. This is how dating looks like, how it's supposed to function. And then it really sets them up for a bad situation in the next couple of years unless they're able to heal from it. Right? So it's important to be mindful of some things, to be exposed to positive things, to be able to question why you're doing what you're doing if it's not healthy. And people know what's not healthy at their core, I think. So it's important for them to question it. It's so important, in fact, that at some universities they actually started to have freshman students, take mandatory courses on what's healthy versus unhealthy dating.
No, wow.
That's pretty crazy, huh? I actually have the list of. I'll go over it maybe next time. I just didn't bring it with me today, but I'll go over it next time. And I think the audience is really wanna hear this, the healthy versus unhealthy dating behaviors. It's pretty interesting. It's awesome, and you get to see how toxic you are in a way. I tell people.
Oh,
I tell people these different, examples, and they'll realize, oh man, my partner wasn't just the one that was unhealthy. It was me too. But being able to understand what is that you're doing that's hurting you is very important too. You have to understand it so you can be healthy and so you can spread the healthy behavior, right? Ultimately, everybody's trying to be healthy, not trying to be toxic. However, some people argue that being toxic is fun. That's a different subject. It's a different subject. That's a different subject. What do you think about what I've mentioned so far? I know it's a lot. I threw a lot at you, but again, this is called "The World's on Fire" for a reason. I'm not gonna hold back on any subject, and I think
I know. You don't get it like I mean, I do agree with what you're saying. There's a lot of Christians that rise up with their head to sleep and really compared to my side here.
Speaking to the mic, you're too far away.
So I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and that I do have my own personal questions, but I'd rather not ask them on here.
Yes.
But yeah, a lot of what you're saying does make sense, and I really like that study on that those tests at the beginning of that. And that's the things like finding out a little bit about who you are, what's normal, and creating awareness.
Sorry, what was the last thing? Sorry.
Creating awareness.
Oh, increasing your awareness, right?
Yeah.
It's tough. It really is. The thing though, I mean, one thing that I think that people have to be mindful of is searching for it. That's the thing. So searching for what is good. And what I mean with that is this. If people notice that something's not okay in their life, it's important for them to develop this motivation, this thing for it to wake up, for them to go to look for what's good. If somebody's not happy in some way, they have to ask themselves, why am I not happy? they have to ask themselves, what is happiness next, right? And if I were happy, what would that look like? And then how do I get there? But these questions have to be asked. They do. And I mean, I could talk more about that the whole day. I could, but I want to keep on going with the attachment styles that we want to cover. So we talked about secure attachment style, right? And all the things that come with it. But then you have a dismissive attachment style. This is one that's pretty interesting. My opinion, mostly men have this one. I think. I have seen it in women. I have. There are women who do have a dismissive attachment style, and it all kind of comes to the same place, or it comes from the same place, and that is the way they were brought up. So women who have a dismissive attachment style, and men as well, they tend to grow up in environments that were not very caring in the sense of helping. Not caring in the sense of not loving. Maybe that too. But more so environments that were not very helping. So when you think of it, it is hyper independence and lack of reliance on other people, and a lack of not wanting to be close to people or depend on people or be close to people emotionally. This is what happens with a dismissive attachment style. So if the kid's parents were very dismissive, pushing them away, or not wanting to be very involved, or kind of like a little bit cold-hearted, and say, do things on your own, Jimmy, and good luck with life. Or, Daddy, I need help with this project at school. We'll figure it out, son. I mean, so you got a brain, so you got a teacher, right? Figure it out. then the kid's going to learn to be very independent, and then at some point this thought sinks in. That is at the root of it. That's basically states, I cannot rely on anybody. I cannot rely on anybody. It's just me. And it's either I'm going to rely on myself and accept that no one's coming to help me, or I'm going to just suffer forever. So then the kid develops this independence, this hyper independence. And then along with that, some level of unresolved and unconscious resentment. I will not get close to people again. I will not trust people again. People are not going to help me. They're just going to hurt me and get in my way. So I just have to be strong and independent. And these people are the ones that are, a lot of the times, emotionally unavailable. Women like to say, let me rephrase that. Don't want to get attacked by women. A lot of times women say that men are emotionally unavailable. But the thing is, it all comes a lot of times from this experience of not having support that they needed, of being maybe criticized when they showed emotion, of having to be hyper independent. So you cannot train somebody for 20 plus years to be so hyper independent. And then, I mean, I'm not saying that women are doing this. What I'm saying is life, people, parents, the world, right? Trains men to be so hyper independent and expects them to just say, abandon all that mentality and now just be healthy, right? And just learn to love and be emotionally available, and don't, don't complain about it, just do it. Think of how crazy that sounds to somebody who's been having to survive throughout their life, thinking, I gotta do things on my own because they were never getting help. Think of it.
How crazy that sounds to somebody who's secure.
Yes. Okay.
Sexy, I send them back there.
Okay, so somebody who's secure, it sounds crazy, right?
Yeah, it does.
Exactly. But people who are in those shoes, I mean, they say, no, this is normal. That's how it should be, right? And they'll probably double down and say, if I'm not at my best and strong, and if I let somebody in, I'm going to get hurt again. And that's what is at the root of it too, by the way. Through all the attachment styles, at least the negative ones, the fear is ultimately, I'm going to get hurt. That really is what's at the root of it when you think about it. The next one, and I'll go back to this, with the anxious attachment style, that one, it came out in the TV show Love is Blind. I think her name was Chelsea. I think that was her name, the character. and she really struggled with this anxious attachment style. With this attachment style, it's really tricky because I guess you can experience it in two different ways. Either you're going to be very clingy with people and want to be all up in their business, want to know why they're not cheating on you, be looking through their phone, be asking where they're at, tracking their location, trying to be around them all the time, not wanting to be apart from them, wanting to do everything together. It could look like that, or it could look like wanting to sabotage things, like self-sabotage. The reason why that can also happen is because people, when they have this attachment style, they're not 100% certain that they're going to be okay. And it leads to so much anxiety. I might not be okay. And if you think you're not going to be okay, then sometimes it's intolerable to be in a situation. So then you just want to end that uncertainty, to end that suffering by sabotaging the relationship and just telling yourself, I gotta stay safe. This is the only absolute way to stay safe. So I'm just gonna sabotage it, and that's it. I'm good. This anxiety goes away, and it's gone for good. So it really is based on anxiety, wanting to be so close, so you will not be pushed away, or wanting to end things, so you can stop feeling that anxiety. And then this usually comes from parents who are not very present, who are absent, who leave, come back. I've heard all kinds of stories. I don't think I've said it yet in the podcast, but I'm actually a therapist. Psychotherapist. And again, I get therapy for the entire state of Texas. And I work with attachment issues. It's one of my favorite subjects to cover. And going back to the anxious attachment style, again, people who have an anxious attachment style, they grow up with parents who leave, come back, who are not very present, who sometimes maybe go to jail, sometimes go to prison, then come back 2 years later, who sometimes are gone, who abandon them, who leave them, who, run away, who try to come back. All this, it teaches kids that there's no stability within the relationship. It teaches them that there's no stability, that they are going to be maybe abandoned at some point, that the people that are in their lives are not going to be there permanently. So, when you think of it, kids want to be close to their parents, right? And if you grow up as an adult, and if you think they're going to be gone one of these days, then what do? You want to hang on even tighter so they'll never leave, they'll never disappear ever again. We're trying to heal, the inner child, if that makes sense. But also, there's this level of frustration and resentment that builds as well. So I'm not going to, let them abandon me. I'm not going to be feeling this way anymore. I'm just going to leave them before they leave me, or I'm just not going to feel this way anymore by just running away. Crazy, huh?
Yeah. So sad.
It is sad. It's sad. It's freaking sad. It's heartbreaking. It's freaking heartbreaking. And again, I'm saying all these different things because I don't want to hold back. Again, one of the main reasons why I'm starting this podcast is because it's going to sound crazy. And I'm sure I'll hear it in the comments or something. But I want to help out people to break free from what's going on with them mentally. I want to reach people at a bigger audience. If I could, I would just give therapy to more people, right? And do it.
Yeah.
And I already do though, but I'm limited to Texas because of the way that, the licensing board works, the way that, ethics works. I cannot operate outside of Texas. So I want to help out people throughout the country. And it's kind of like why I'm doing this too. And whatchamacallit, this timer says, give me 1 second.
12 minutes.
Yes, I'm still okay though. But what's it called? I see myself as kind of like Avatar: The Last Airbender. Not Avatar the blue one, but Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a pretty good joke. That was a pretty good joke. And so I see myself as Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I'm trying to bring I mean, some level of peace in as much way as I can, right? I mean, I have my own spiritual connections, right, to divinity that make me want to do this too. That's a different story though. That it's like I want to help people, and I'm in whatever way I can, and this is one of the ways that I want to do it in. And I think that one droplet can really impact the pool significantly. So much that did you know that one person interacts with around 80,000 people in their lifetime? That's crazy. Exactly. And if I get to as many as like 50 people in this podcast, then imagine how many like ripples that would do in the entire pool.
Well, really be good.
Exactly. So this is why I'm doing it. Anyways, back to the attachment styles. So this is the anxious attachment style, but then the final one sort of is the avoidant attachment style. This is the kind of person that will try to avoid connection, that will really try to not go towards love, connection, because they're afraid. But they're so afraid, they're trying to avoid people, hence the word avoidance. These people are the runners of love. So they could be amazing people, and then somebody will try to start a relationship with them, and they'll try to run away. A very good example of this, I think it would be that movie. I think it was Just Friends or Only Friends or something. The one with that guy. It was Natalie Portman, I think. It was in the movie. Where his name? Ashton Kutcher. That's the one. Ashton Kutcher. For anybody that saw that movie, I'm pretty sure Natalie Portman in that movie, she had an avoidant attachment style. She was trying to avoid connection. And Ashton Kutcher, in the movie, in the character,
Those things are past.
Huh? I think, yeah, it's that one. Okay, that one. I think it's that one.
Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis.
I can hear what you're saying, sorry.
I think it's Mila Kunis.
Oh, was it her? I'm getting my characters confused. All I know is that Ashton Kutcher was trying to go towards having a relationship. But she said no, she didn't want to, and because she was afraid. She was. But then, again, she eventually changed. She eventually let go of her beliefs, the negative ones, and went towards love. People that have an avoidant attachment style, they have a low evaluation of themselves and a low evaluation of others, and they're very sensitive to rejection and disapproval. So much that they're trying to avoid any chance that this could happen to them. They're trying to prevent experiencing that hurt. Like I said in the very beginning, that everybody's trying to avoid experiencing this hurt. The dismissive people tend to want to avoid experiencing this hurt by creating a giant wall in front of themselves and from other people. And by doing so, having the separation. The people who are anxious are trying to hang on too tight. And they don't want to experience the hurt by getting abandoned or they end it themselves so they won't be hurt. But dismissive has a high evaluation of other people and a high evaluation of the self. People with anxiety, with an anxious attachment style, they have a low evaluation of themselves and a high evaluation of other people. So that's kind of what's happening there for the audience, just so you can know. And it's very important to understand what your attachment style is as a way to be mindful of it, as a way to try to rectify the issue, as a way to try to work against the negative programming that you've been programmed to. It's not going to be helpful to hang on to this mentality. In fact, it's so unhelpful that if you hang on to it, you're kind of, setting yourself up for maybe a lot of conflict, a lot of toxic relationships, a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and living a version of reality that was never meant to be your reality. Now think about it, how crazy that sounds. If you are a healthy person or try to be healthy and try to heal from what happened in your early teens or teenage years, even in your early 20s, if you try to heal from it, then in the 30s, the years to come, 30s, 40s, 50s, beyond, you will live a version of reality that is different than the one that you would be experiencing if you had not tried to heal yourself. You are literally living a reality that you are not supposed to be living if you don't try to heal yourself from the situation, from what happened. You have to fix yourself. And I mean, I'm sure some smart aleck in the comments or the, what's it called? The platform will say something like, there's nothing wrong with you. No, there's something wrong with you. Yeah, there is. There is. Right? I once, well, when I was a kid, what's it called? You know, we were all told there's nothing wrong with you, right? And that's cool. That's awesome, right? Positive affirmation, right? I walked into this store one time with a girl that I was dating at some point during high school. I think it was high school. So I walked to the store and there was this poster that said the 10 things you should do to live a better life. At the very bottom of the poster, it said something very interesting. It said, be yourself, but better.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. You see how that works?
Oh, yeah.
You see how that works? You can say nothing's wrong with you, or you could say, I'm going to be myself, but better.
Mhm.
Two things can be true at the same time. You can be great just the way that you are, and you can be better. This is what we call in mental health dialectics. You can be better. You can always be better. Now, I'm not saying that means the person's not good enough, but what I'm saying is you can be better, especially within relationships.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts? I threw a lot of stuff at you. Like I throw
Yeah, there's a lot of so I didn't say this on the podcast before. I'm not a professional licensed therapist. I'm just a friend.
a good friend, my best friend.
Yeah, you have to throw that word around real loosely, man. Everybody's your best friend.
But yeah, we're best friends.
Anyways,
So what are your thoughts, best friend? What are your thoughts?
that was a lot of very interesting topics. And, you know, this affects everybody, but it's so insightful. I mean, what I really want to know is, like, how the hell do you get those people who just don't want to be aware, don't want the help, and are just like not the best version of themselves? How do you get those people to be, you know, the best that they can be? That's all I've ever wanted to do, do for people, to get out of people. And especially when it comes to family, that's the hardest. And it's just like, come on, man. Come on.
How do you get these people to be the best version they can be?
Yeah, man. Like, they're all those toxic styles. And you want them to be, but
Yeah.
how do you,
1 second. And we're back. So what happened was that the timer I'm not sure if it was the program or the timer or what happened, but he kicked me off for some reason. That's why you shouldn't get the free memberships. That's why you gotta that's what you have to what they call get like the paid subscription here, at least with Zoom. And also, I'll get a laughing sound next time because the cricket one kind of didn't do it perfectly. It was pretty good though. It was pretty good. You were asking, how do you get people to like, I guess, change? Like, how do you get?
yeah, how do you get people to change, man?
You don't. You don't.
So they just stay stuck in their old ways, and
Some people do. Some people stay in that.
see
Some people
forever.
forever. They stay there. They stay there. Not really. I don't want to sound like, if it's so pessimistic, but for a lot of people, they just get stuck there forever, and they never leave the depths of hell. They never leave it. They just get stuck there forever. But now that you bring it up, so this is actually a very interesting subject. So, well, I left one thing out when I was talking about the attachment styles. There's one final attachment style that think of it like the forbidden one. It is the
Okay.
one that if you get this one, I mean, you're gonna be set for like a very bad situation. I mean, for a long, long time. And this is the attachment style that is the equivalent of like, I mean, like a la chingada. Like it's really bad. It's called the disorganized attachment style. Disorganized attachment style, and the way that it works is it's a combination of all of the ones I already mentioned, all of the ones that are not secure, and along with that, it's a combination of that plus trauma. So if you experience a lot of the bad stuff that I already mentioned, but then along with this, you experience trauma, like actual abuse from parents or other kinds of abuse by people, then you're gonna have a disorganized attachment style. This looks like being combative. This looks like being what's it called, rude, picking fights, not knowing how to handle conflict in a healthy way, like really escalating it like crazy. And it looks like being vindictive, vengeful. It can lead to domestic violence. It can lead to all kinds of things. So it is the attachment style, the disorganized attachment style, the one that's fueled by trauma. So you essentially get all the bad stuff from the other ones, and then you get the effects of trauma combined into the relationship. Now, in the worst cases where people actually experience so much trauma and so much abuse and so much of the negative stuff and not much of the positive stuff, and they've also experienced sexual trauma and other stuff like this, they tend to develop what's called BPD, borderline personality disorder, and it has a lot of different things that come along with it. For anybody who's had their life touched by somebody with BPD, they know what it looks like, and it looks very scary. It does. I also specialize in treating BPD, by the way, which is pretty interesting. Like I said, I like this subject. It's pretty interesting to me. It really is. I think it's because of the movie that made me want to become a therapist in the first place, for the movie and the show. So it was Good Will Hunting
It's
with
a great movie.
exactly
It's
with
a
Matt Damon.
great movie.
Yes, with Matt Damon and with Robin Williams. And I actually have a poster of them right there because I liked the movie that much. It made me want to become a therapist. It did. And it made me want to be a lot like Robin Williams, like Sean in the movie, as the kind of a therapist that I wanted to be. And of course, Will's trauma was attachment based as well. He went from foster home to foster home and experienced abuse. And when he was met with true love by Skylar in the movie, he was, not happy. He was confrontational. He was avoidant. He was anxious. She even called him out, saying he was scared because he didn't want to leave his bubble. I mean, all that stuff. So it made me be very curious about attachment styles, all these different things, attachment therapy. And then eventually I started to work with people that have BPD. Interestingly enough, your question, you said, how do you get somebody to get better? There are three answers that people will tell you normally, around three or so. And of course, in the comments or when people are listening, they're going to know what I'm talking about when I say this. The first one is you cannot control what anybody else thinks or does. But that's kind of tricky to accept when you think about it. If somebody tells you cannot control anybody else's thoughts or behaviors, you can only control yours, and that's it. Then wow, that's really disempowering from a certain perspective. At least from a relational perspective, right? Or to tell you can't do anything because you cannot control what other people do or how they think. That's sad. It really is. It's disempowering, right? And that's the first answer you'll hear from almost every single therapist inside the whole world, country, everywhere, right? The second answer you'll get is you have to learn to walk away. You have to walk away because if you stay in a toxic situation, you cannot heal. You cannot heal in the environment in which you were hurt. That is something else that you will hear. The third answer that you might get, probably one that's really practiced a lot by a lot of therapists, is having very healthy boundaries. But even that answer is not good enough, in my opinion, because it doesn't address the complexities of, certain people's behaviors and the way they interact with people. So if I were to say, just have better boundaries, and you would say, okay, cool, better boundaries. And
Exactly.
you go about it and then you interact with them. What do people that are abusive or narcissistic or all these different things have in common? They're all experts at being able to destroy your boundaries. They are. It kind of went
Yeah.
up for a second. Sorry. I think it was something that I had in background. But these people are all experts at being able to destroy boundaries, at being able to cross your boundaries, being able to take a sledgehammer to the wall of your boundaries and just tear them down. So I cannot give you the answer of, I just have better boundaries. That's not how this is going to work in reality. I mean, it could work to a certain degree. And for some people who are very good with boundaries, I mean, it might work sometimes, semi, but it doesn't really fix the issue. It doesn't. I studied psychology for the last, how long has it been? It's been at least 1, 2, 3. It's been a long, long time.
It's been a while.
It's been over 10 years. It's been a long time. So I started from the jump. I mean, I've been curious since I was a kid, first of all, but college experience started like a long time ago, like 2000 and what's it called, 2008, 2009. So it's been a pretty long time. I've been doing this for a long time. And I eventually was able to do enough research. I've done so much research in this subject and other subjects as well, that I've been able to compile a set of interventions that are very helpful at being able to help people deal with people who have disorganized attachment styles and all the other attachment styles, and who have BPD, all these different things. And over the years, I saw different things. I saw this cool book once that said how to love somebody with BPD. So it kind of reminded me of what I do, right? It was a pretty cool book. But I created something, I guess, quote unquote, create, because what I did was I took all the best literature from all over the world, right, that had to do with the subject and made it into a program. I'm not trying to sell anything on this thing, by the way. I'm not trying to sell anything. What I'm saying is my approach was that I made it into a program where it actually teaches people how to interact with the most toxic people ever. It is so amazing. It really is. And the aim of the program, the way that I developed it, it's called the DHEX method, by the way. DHEX. It's a play on words, like David, right? David DHEX, but also DHEX as in take off this curse from my life.
That's been cool.
DHEX my relationship. I created this thing because one thing that I found while I was doing therapy throughout the last couple of years was that, one, it's very difficult for people that are toxic to want to come to couples therapy or to individual therapy. So they don't always want to go. And two, even if they did, I'm not sure they would actually, a bunch of them would actually be trying to fix things, right? But if I teach, for example, you or somebody else how to deal with these people in the best way possible, based on literature, based on research, and I teach you like some specific techniques that are applicable to your specific situation, then what I give you essentially, right, in therapy, and I think it's important for people to understand, not just in therapy, but in the grand scheme of things, is the gift of light. If that makes sense. Think it sounds cheesy, it sounds super cheesy, I know it does. But think about it like this. If you're able to radiate your goodness so much that you're able to spread the light wherever you go, then even in the darkest corridors, even in the darkest caverns, there'll be light. Which means that if you bring the positive, positive behaviors, and you model the correct behavior in the relationship, then you're able to spread the positivity. Just like the negative can spread as well. You can spread the positivity. It's possible. A while ago, an hour ago, I said that if a person who's secure meets somebody who's not secure, they can sometimes be infected with all these different issues, right? But it works both ways. It does. So if you are able to, change yourself in a way to where you bring out the best out of yourself and are able to have this light that you carry with you, that you can go anywhere and you illuminate the darkness. So it's not just, it's spiritual, It's biblical. It's behavioral. It's interpersonal psychology. I even incorporate couples counseling from all the greatest researchers in the world. Some people will say I have a lot of free time, but when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So again, with that what's it called, framework, right? You're able to help people change by changing yourself into the thing that has to change other people. If that makes sense.
Mm.
It's a pretty cool sentiment, pretty cool like framework, and I've seen it work. It works something like 9 times out of 10. Success rates, I'll be honest, 9 times out of 10 or so, pretty high. It's pretty freaking high. I'm keeping track. I'm keeping track, by the way. Like I count my clients and see how many times did this work or did not work. 9 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, it works. They're able to help other people, and they're able to have better relationships based on bringing out the best out of themselves and channeling that inner energy that they need to channel to spread that light and to change negativity to positivity. And in fact, in Buddhism, they also talk about this, how you have to first change your own light, change your own energy, and then they can spread into other people. Just like darkness spreads, light spreads. But the challenge is when the darkness is so good at being dark and the light's not very good at being light, then the darkness wins. But if the light gets better at being a light and be better at illuminating things, then it'll overshadow darkness. And play on words right there, but it's a really good way to approach it. Those are different kinds of ways to approach these people that you may interact with on day to day or throughout your life, and as a way to improve yourself along the process. So even if you have a toxic partner who does not want to go to therapy, or toxic people that do not want to go to therapy, if you go to therapy and take on this specific approach and learn everything you're supposed to learn, then at some point you'll be the change that you want to see in the world. I have a lot of free time, Jim. I have a lot of free time. I do. But hopefully this podcast reaches somebody. I'm not a professional podcaster. This is my first podcast ever. But I got a lot but I got a lot to say. And again, like I said before, I think that it's time for me to say something, to do something. With great power comes great responsibility. Quote unquote Spider-Man. And I mean, I just think that it's my role to play in this big thing that we call life.
Bravo, sir. I'm proud of you.